The Selective Service System is the U.S. government's backup plan for military manpower in a national emergency. It's a system designed to ensure that if the country ever faces a crisis requiring rapid military expansion, there's a ready pool of eligible individuals to call upon. It's not about enlisting people, but about keeping a list of who could be called if Congress and the President ever reinstate the draft. Registration is a way to keep track of potential draftees, not to force anyone into immediate service. Nearly all male U.S. citizens and male immigrants ages 18 to 25 must register, regardless of health or background. This includes students, athletes, and even those with disabilities, though not everyone would be drafted if a draft were ever reinstated. Registration is not conscription, it's just adding your name to a database. No one is being called up simply by registering, and there are no immediate consequences beyond being listed. The U.S. hasn't had a draft since 1973, and reinstating one would require a major act of Congress. The end of the draft marked a shift to an all-volunteer military, but the infrastructure for a draft remains in place, just in case. The Selective Services job is purely administrative: maintain the list, prepare the lottery, and stay ready, just in case. Their work is behind the scenes, ensuring the system is functional if ever needed. For decades, this quiet system has been a rite of passage for young men, a reminder of a national obligation that's rarely discussed but always present. It's a moment that marks adulthood for many, even if it's just a formality. Registering is a legal duty, but it's passive. No one is being forced into service by signing up. Failing to register, however, can have consequences, such as losing eligibility for certain federal benefits or student aid. The system exists as a contingency, a safeguard for emergencies, not as an active tool of conscription. It's a quiet but important part of national preparedness, ensuring the country is never caught off guard. For more than 4 decades, young men across the United States have carried the responsibility of registering themselves with the Selective Service System. This process is a crucial part of national policy, ensuring that the government can quickly mobilize if a draft is ever needed again. By law, every male citizen and immigrant must register within 30 days of turning 18. You can do this online at your local post office, or even while filling out your FAFSA for college financial aid. The process is designed to be simple and accessible, but it's a legal requirement that cannot be ignored. Failing to register is technically a felony offense, carrying serious legal weight, though actual prosecutions are extremely rare in practice. The real consequences, however, are automatic and impactful: no access to federal student aid, no eligibility for federal jobs, and for immigrants, the possibility of being denied U.S. citizenship or permanent residency. Miss the registration deadline, and you're permanently ineligible for these important benefits, with no way to reverse the decision later. The government spends millions of dollars each year on public service announcements, billboards, and mailers to remind teens to register. But despite these efforts, compliance has never reached 100%. Many young men miss out on registration simply because they're unaware of the requirement, not because they're intentionally defiant or trying to break the law. This self-registration system, which relies heavily on individual action and awareness, has led to declining registration rates in recent years and sparked ongoing debates about how to improve the process. Now lawmakers are considering new approaches to create a more efficient, comprehensive system, one that ensures national readiness while reducing the risk of young people missing out on opportunities due to a simple oversight. Soon, the U.S. will shift from self-registration to automatic draft registration. Under new federal law, the Selective Service will use existing government databases, like DMV records, to enroll eligible men automatically. Most young men will be registered without lifting a finger. This system aims for near-total coverage, closing gaps left by the old model. No more reminder cards or threats of lost benefits. The process happens quietly in the background. While efficient, this raises new questions about data privacy and government reach. The relationship between citizens and the Selective Service is fundamentally changing, from active compliance to passive enrollment. Automatic registration is about efficiency and modernization. The government spends millions each year on outreach, yet compliance has dropped to 81%. 1 in 5 eligible men aren't registered, risking lifelong penalties for a simple oversight. Automating the process eliminates these gaps and saves money. It's a logical update in an era of digital records, using data the government already collects. Supporters say this ensures a complete, ready roster if a draft is ever needed. The change isn't about bringing back conscription, but about making the system work as intended. It's an administrative reform for the 21st century. The U.S. draft has a long controversial history, dating back to the Revolution and Civil War. The selective service system began in 1917 for World War I and was reactivated for World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. The Vietnam War era saw massive protests and criticism of the draft's fairness. In 1973, the draft ended, replaced by an all-volunteer force. Registration was dropped, then reinstated in 1980 after the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, not as a draft, but as a precaution. Since then, the system has existed as a standby shaped by past wars and future uncertainties. It's a legacy of conflict, readiness, and the ongoing debate over compulsory service. News of automatic registration has sparked fears that the U.S. is preparing to bring back the draft. In a world of rising tensions and recent conflicts, any change to the selective service stirs anxiety. Social media amplifies worries. Why make the system more efficient unless you plan to use it? Officials insist there's no plan for a draft, but public skepticism remains. Memories of Vietnam and the idea of forced service haunt the national imagination. The real concern is uncertainty. What if a crisis overwhelms the volunteer military? For critics, automating registration feels like oiling the machinery of conscription, just in case. Automatic registration removes the burden and the risk of forgetting to sign up. For many young men, this means one less thing to worry about as they transition into adulthood, especially during a time filled with new responsibilities and decisions. It streamlines a process that, for decades, has caused confusion and anxiety for those unsure about deadlines or requirements. No more lost opportunities for federal aid or jobs due to a missed deadline. Automatic registration ensures that everyone who is eligible remains in good standing, opening doors to education, employment, and other benefits that might otherwise be closed. But it also erases a moment of civic engagement, turning a conscious act into a background process. The act of registering once served as a small but significant rite of passage, a reminder of the responsibilities that come with citizenship. The system becomes more efficient, but the connection between citizen and country grows more abstract. Some worry that this efficiency comes at the cost of personal involvement and awareness. For the nation, this means a more complete, ready roster if a draft is ever needed. The government can be confident that fewer people will slip through the cracks, ensuring fairness and preparedness. Supporters say it strengthens national security. They argue that a comprehensive list is essential for readiness in times of crisis. Critics worry it lowers the barrier to conscription. They fear that making registration automatic could make it easier for the government to call up citizens without their active consent. The change solves practical problems but raises deeper questions about duty and democracy. It asks us to consider what it means to participate in civic life and whether convenience should outweigh conscious choice. As the U.S. modernizes its draft system, the hope remains that it will never need to be used. Yet the conversation about responsibility, citizenship, and national service continues to evolve with each new generation.